Welcome back. This is Samhain Irene Crowley, and you're here with me at the 777 Mystery School. And today we're talking about African mysteries. So it is the month of June, and June is the month of the Voodoo Queen's feast day, Marie Laveau from New Orleans. And I absolutely love Marie Laveau. I love New Orleans. Those of you who know about me know that I have had the opportunity to work with practitioners and voodoo queens and teachers in New Orleans, and done tours in New Orleans and done readings in New Orleans, and have developed a powerful connection in New Orleans with my family there. But also many of you know, or maybe you don't, that I'm a Yanifa, and that I truly have been initiated into Ifa, which is called a birthing. When you are birthed into a religion, you are birthed into the African mysteries. And I was birthed into the African mysteries by my Nana, Iyanifa Basa, and the Ifa College. And you can check the links below in this video, and you can go to the Orisha Gardens in Crescent City, Florida, and learn more about this sacred religion. Iyanifa Basa and her late husband, Orawufila, have initiated thousands and thousands of people into Lukumi Santeria and into Ifa. So that is my initiators, but that is not where my history began. So we're talking about ground rules and the importance of ground rules. This isn't going to be a super long video because a lot of the information is going to be located in the Google Classroom and the Google Documents. So for those of you who want to take on the teachings and want to actually learn and practice, you're going to want to go to the Google Classroom. Click the link below. It's absolutely free. Go to the Google Classroom and do the assignments and learn. So let's talk about these ground rules and how important they are. I'm going to pass 4 keys down to you today. And as you know, with me, I love to talk about keys and the power of keys. And I'm going to pass down those 4 keys to you. So let's look forward to those 4 keys coming up soon. But I want to give you a little bit of history on my bloodline. So those of you who have been following me through the years know that we are Aryan supremacy. And that my ancestors, the Dutch, the Norwegian, the Vikings, back in the day, they traveled into Africa. And of course, we know that the Africans traveled into Europe and into the Netherlands. And they practiced slave trading. You have to remember, back in the day, slave trading was totally legal. Now it's illegal, but back in the day, it was legal. And my ancestors fairly traded black slaves for goods and merchandise, foods, all kinds of things. And so we had a copious amount of fair trade slaves in our family. And of course, we, became family, and our forefathers and foremothers, they were having sex. They were having sex because they had children, and that's how we got Africans in our bloodline. So, the history. It is what it is, as crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds crazy, but the truth is the truth. We are one of those families that has Africans in our family. So, this is a practice. African mysteries is the practice of the ancestors. We believe in connecting to the ancestors. We believe in the essential power of connecting to the ancestors. We believe in the power of emanations, and that the ancestors are watching over us and teaching us. So when I was very young, when I was a young girl, I used to dream of this beautiful African woman who had her hair wrapped, and she had this room, and she had all these things in this room, and she was always cooking and doing herbs and doing things with bones. And I used to dream about this woman, and I had no idea who she was. And this was I was too young to understand. This was way before I, really started studying my ancestry and my history, way before I even knew that I had Africans, in my bloodline. But I used to dream of this woman, and as I got older and started practicing and learning more about hoodoo and voodoo and Ifa and voodoo, I started putting the pieces together, the memories together, and the dreams together. And what I thought was dreaming back then was really my ancestors teaching me, was really emanations, where the ancestors teach us. And so the first time I saw a picture of Marie Laveau, I was like, oh my God, that looks like my ancestor. And I couldn't believe it. I was just fascinated by her. Now, it is said that, Marie Laveau could be a total fictional character. It is said that she could even be Saint Josephine, who was a real nun who traveled all over the world. There are many things that are said about Marie Laveau. But one thing that I can tell you is that, at least in my experience, she's real to me. Marie Laveau is real to me, and Marie Laveau is real to many of the other teachers that I have studied with. And then you'll meet other tribes who don't believe in her at all, and that's totally okay. Like in Ifa, we don't believe in Marie Laveau because we're practicing Ifa and African energy, which has nothing to do with Marie Laveau. But in New Orleans and in voodoo, especially in voodoo, which is like the melting pot, as they call it, as a lot of the Mambos in New Orleans, they call New Orleans the melting pot of voodoo because so many things are mixed in. It's like a big old bowl of gumbo. There's a little bit of everything inside of it. And that's where that essence and presence of Marie Laveau came from. And those of you who have had the opportunity to travel to New Orleans or have traveled within the vampire family and the vampire rites of Father Sebastian, then you're fully aware of one of his great friends and our voodoo queen, known as Bloody Mary and the Bloody Mary Museum. And those of you who know my history, I've done readings there and did Paracon there and have been involved for a few years now. And her museum is quite fascinating. And one of the things that is really great about her museum is that she has real artifacts that belonged to who they call Marie Laveau. And you can go to her museum and you can see these artifacts. And it's something that I definitely suggest you check out. And you can also go on one of her tours. You can go on a Bloody Mary tour, or you can go on tours with Tours by Nola, and they will take you on tours to learn more about Marie Laveau. And also you can click the links below to learn more, or go into the Google Classroom and check out the Google documents, and they'll tell you more about who and what and where. There's a lot of places in New Orleans to check out. There's a lot of amazing practitioners there for those of you who are hyped over New Orleans. And because it is the feast day of Marie Laveau, we're centered and focused around Marie Laveau and New Orleans right now. So before we start getting into love magic and love potions and money rituals and voodoo dolls, there are a few ground rules. And these ground rules are super important. Why these ground rules are super important? Because one, they will protect you, but two, they will teach you the truth. They will teach you the truth. And as a sabre-tooth, as a vampire, I am under oath to tell the truth. I am honest. And those of you who have gotten readings from me in New Orleans at the Bloody Mary Museum, that's the first thing that I say to you. I am under oath. I am not allowed to lie to you. I am under oath. I am not allowed to lie to you. I have to tell you the truth. And so I'm sharing these things with you, these 4 keys, to empower you and to strengthen you and give you the opportunity to really learn from valuable resources. So, ground rule number 1, do not pay hundreds and thousands of dollars for initiations. Please don't do that. Please do not do that. Stop right there. Now, if you find a house that you're interested in and they have expenses, that is different, because there are a lot of expenses in initiation. There are a lot of expenses. There's a lot of things that go into an initiation, and those things cost money. So remember that. Initiation into a house is not cheap, but it shouldn't cause you to go broke either. Also, you don't have to be initiated to practice. You can build your own practice. A lot of people in New Orleans style voodoo aren't initiated, so you can practice New Orleans style voodoo and not need to be initiated. So don't be fooled by that either. And also, choose which path you would like to be a part of. Now, you may find Ifa to be too much to handle because you have to practice the Odu and you have to, be connected to the Orishas. You may find Santeria to be too involved because you have to learn the paths of the Santos and the Santeras, and it's a lot of work. You may find Kumandara to be too deep of a practice. But these practices are all valuable. One thing I can say about voodoo, now do not collapse this with voodoo. Voodoo is very, very different. One thing that I can say to you about voodoo is because voodoo is this amazing melting pot, and especially New Orleans style voodoo, there's a lot of permission there. There's a lot of permission to learn different modalities and cultivate a practice. Now, Haitian voodoo is very, very strict. Very, very strict. So, more than likely, you probably won't find yourself going into Haitian voodoo because of the bloodlines. But in this case, because we are honoring Marie Laveau and we are celebrating the beauty of New Orleans, we're going to teach a little bit about New Orleans style voodoo, and I'm going to throw in a little bit of Ifa and a little bit of Santeria and some other really fun things there, because after all, it is the African mysteries. So before we get into the spirits, there's also a very essential and powerful key. Key number 2. Your guardian ancestors. Before you start casting spells, before you start doing love magic, before you start taking on a relationship or a marriage with an Orisha or a Loa or a saint, I want to invite you into developing a relationship with your guardian ancestors. You have 2 guardian ancestors. You have one on your mama's side and you have one on your daddy's side. We are all born with these guardian ancestors. Your guardian ancestor is an ancestor who died before you were born. So you have one on your mama's side, one on your daddy's side, and they're an ancestor who died before you were born. Now, I am providing an ancestral ritual, a guardian ancestor ritual in the Google Classroom. You can click the link below and you can go into the Google Classroom to do this ritual. I'm not going to teach the ritual here. This is an introduction to go to the Google Classroom and to learn more. So those of you who truly want to practice and you want to develop your relationship with your guardian ancestors and then the African spirits, you're going to need to go into the Google Classroom to learn more. Otherwise, just enjoy this video. So, yes, the guardian ancestor, you have one on your mama's side, one on your daddy's side, and they lived before you, obviously, but they died before you. So this wasn't like your grandpa or your grandma or someone that you grew up with. It's probably a great, or even a great. So pay attention to that. That's also very important. Remember, you have one on your dad's side and one on your mom's side. So the importance of this is to understand that your guardian Orisha, and then when you go into having a relationship with an immortal spirit like a Loa or an Orisha or a saint, these are going to be the most valuable relationships in your life. And if you are not in a place in your life where you cannot develop a relationship to this magnitude, then the African Mysteries is not the practice for you. Because you are genuinely in service to these spirits. Genuinely in service to these spirits, and in return, they serve you. So if you are not someone who can handle daily maintenance and keeping a clean temple and a clean house and cooking every day and giving daily offerings and singing and dancing and being in relationship and ritual ceremony with the spirit world on a daily basis, the African Mysteries is not for you. You may want to check out some of the witchcraft mysteries or some of the vampire mysteries. Those mysteries don't require you to be in service to spirits 24/7 like the African Mysteries do. So African Mysteries, high maintenance, requires a lot of attention and a lot of upkeep. And if you are not ready for that, then don't get involved. The other option is maybe you want to get involved and you want to be involved in a house, but you don't have time to do rituals and do ceremonies. You can become a part of a house. You can get initiated. You can become a part of a house, or you can hire a practitioner. And then you can pay them to do rituals for you and do rituals on your behalf, especially in African Mysteries. That is something that has been practiced years after years after years. It's definitely something that you can do. And I've done it myself and have had great results. And I suggest that those of you who do not want to maintain an altar and feed Orishas all the time, hire a practitioner. There's plenty of us out here who want to do the work for you. So hire one. The other thing that I would like to share with you is the valuable resources of having a library and a apothecary. So before you start getting into spells, before you start getting into building altars, you're going to want to gradually start building your apothecary and your library. Well, what do you put in your library? What kind of books? What do you study? You study herbs. You study flowers. You study resins. You study spices. Herbs, flowers, resins, spices. Herbs, flowers, resins, spices, over and over and over and over and over again. Back in the day when I started in my studies, my main coven, the Eye of the Cat in Long Beach, the first year of cultivating who I was as a witch and witchcraft, we studied herbs, spices, resins, what they were, how to use them, how to connect with them, the difference between a manifester, a catalyst, and a purpose. When I started studying with Bloody Mary at the Bloody Mary Museum in New Orleans, she taught the same thing, slightly different though. They are very different. And she taught the importance of developing a deep relationship with each herb and flower and resin, and developing these personal relationships and then marrying them together. And how important it is to learn how to marry these herbs and spices and resins together. You first develop a relationship with cinnamon or ginger or sandalwood or master of the woods or chamomile. And you develop these deep relationships with these herbs like lavender and vanilla And after you develop these deep relationships, you also understand how to marry them to each other and how to work with them to create an herbal spell or a gree-gree or a magic potion. So notice how we're going from developing a relationship with the ancestors to developing a relationship with spirits, immortal spirits, and then developing relationships with Mother Nature and the valuable power of that. So once again, you have to understand that you are cultivating powerful relationships, because in voodoo and voodoo and Ifa, your strongest relationship is going to be in your kitchen and in your apothecary. If you're going to make a voodoo doll, you got to use flowers and spices and mosses and all kinds of things. If you're going to make an incense, you got to understand how to put herbs together to do that. If you're going to make a gree-gree or a medicine pouch or a floor wash or an incense, you've got to understand how to bring these tools together to do so. That's the reason why they work, is because you're developing a relationship with the spirit first. And then you and that spirit have a deep relationship. And you may find, your own recipe where you use, 5 main herbs. You hear about 5-finger grass, or you hear about certain practitioners. They'll say, oh, well, I have a certain recipe. Those are my top 5 herbs. Those are the only herbs that I work with, and I use them in everything. There's a reason for that. It's because they have developed a deep relationship with those 5 herbs, and they're using those herbs because they have a connection with them, or they're using those spices because they have a connection with them. But you may already have herbs that you really love. Like some people love, parsley, and other people really like basil. Some people like the bay leaf. We all have different relationships with herbs, but pay attention to the herbs, the spices, the flowers, and the resins that you naturally have a connection to, and then continue to explore. So building your apothecary, building your library, building your relationship with your ancestors, and learning what type of practitioner do you want to be when it comes to the African mysteries. All of these are valuable lessons. If you want to learn more and go deeper, then go into the Google Classroom, and I would love to see you there. So I just have a few more things that I want to share with you. And I have 2 books to pass down to you. One of them is the Encyclopedia of Herbs from Cunningham. And the second one is the Encyclopedia of Herbs by Catherine Nyawanga. Both of them are teachers within our family and our bloodline, and I highly suggest them. If you do not have those books in your library and you are interested in the African mysteries or in learning more about herbs and spices and making your own incense, then those are 2 books that I highly recommend. And last but certainly not least, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me. I am Samhain Irene Crowley, also known as Ia Love, and thank you for watching this little video, and I will see you in the Google Classroom. Goodbye.